You know, usually you hate mirrors, but this is actually one of the funnest ones to watch. One and all, welcome back to Age of Empires 4 action. We have got a Japanese showdown on 4 lakes between Dumu and Numadon. 2 top players here. I'd say 2 fairly closely matched players, in fact. In a mirror matchup, there's no better way to define who is the masterclass player here. And an interesting matchup because actually I haven't been able to cast much 4 lakes. I feel like we haven't seen much played in general, as a lot of players just seem to have it vetoed for whatever reason. But the fact that they both come into this map, they don't go for Ruse, they don't go for China, they go for Japan on both sides. I'm excited to see what they got in mind. This is an interesting matchup, actually, because I think this was the first place where people saw the value in Onimusha, where every other matchup, no one wanted to build it, right, until Uma Bannerman got fixed. Even before Uma Bannerman was fixed, Onimusha dominated this matchup. Curious to see if the meta has held the same for both of these players. We did just hit the 2x speed to go live. We are absolutely as close to live as possible as you can be with a full picture of the map here. Numadon, at the time of recording, I mean, he's pretty high on the Balu account, right? Let's have a look. Balu is 31st in the world right now. He's 1989 elo. Meanwhile, Dumu, 2079 elo, is sitting in 21st place. So they are pretty closely matched, actually. Dumu, of course, will be a little bit rusty, I imagine. He just got back from casting Katowice. Of course, at the same time, you could argue on the flip side, Numadon has been busy smashing it out in Stormgate for like the last 2 weeks. So both of them, on every element of the surrounding game, shall we call it, are closely matched right now. So let's see if the timings match as well. It looks like there's going to be a pawn play coming out at a delay for Dimu, funnily enough. Numadon quicker to move out for that second pawn. A little bit surprised by that, but it seems that Dimu wants a quicker feudal age timing. I think he's going to stop at 1 pond and rush the Koka Township here. A little bit risky what Numadon is doing, because it means that you are susceptible to being raided by Shinobi and just being shut down on one of your lakes. Funnily enough, on a delay now, if Dimu wanted, he could pull 1 villager to walk to one of these lakes to take control of it entirely. Instead, I imagine he's going to keep everything condensed at home because he probably thinks that this is Koka rushed on both sides. His scout isn't in a position to confirm for him either. A little bit surprised at the fact the scout is coming this far away instead of just hanging back and seeing what's happening from his opponent. Typically, you don't really need the sheep on this map. I feel like if you ever reach a stage where you're falling back to sheep, game's probably already over in a Japanese mirror. That does mean there's going to be a fishing lead, right? 5 compared to 5 right now, but the second dock online is going to start to escalate quite quickly here for Numadon. And remember, it's quite easy to balance that investment while teching up because those docks, the fishing boats only cost a mere 45 wood as the Japanese. Wait, what? Nani? On 4 legs? In a Japanese mirror? Okay, you have my attention, Dimu. You very much have my attention. What have you got in mind? It's Koka on the other side, so what you might have in mind is a quick way to get back to the lobby screen, because this is such a big detail. I'm wondering if Dimu realizes that his opponent was delayed. Because it almost feels like he's expecting to be the defender here, so he wants land eco and long-term play, and he doesn't want to play the ninja game, because he thought he was going to be behind. But, I mean, he went 1 pond, faster feudal timing, but he'd done it with Kura. This does mean he's less reliant on the fishing, so it might be that this allows Duma to get a bit more aggressive on the ponds on the other side without caring about trading away his own eco. But it's also very risky. One thing that has to be highlighted, Koka Township play is a lot weaker on water maps now. I think Relic made a huge mistake with the way that they nerfed this landmark without any buffs further in the game, because now you don't immediately get the first Shinobi. You have to wait. You have to wait 23 seconds, which is just actually absurd. It's absolutely absurd, in fact. Like, let's think about a comparison here, right? As I think a fair comparison is to say, like, something along the lines of French Knights. French Knights take 29 seconds to come out. They're much more mobile than Shinobi. And that production decrease on timing affects all cavalry for the whole game. Going Koka Township gives you nothing but this. And although it's very strong, and I understand the need to like nerf it for water maps. I agree that it was a bit too strong on water maps. I do think that they've kind of made it worthless anywhere else. And even on water maps, the timing now feels very skewed. So tech up is complete. First Shinobi has been queued up for free, and an additional one has been queued up behind it. But by the time he gets here, Dumu will have a defense, right? He should easily have an archer ship out, so there's no way that these Shinobi are going to do anything. I mean, he could maybe block the play onto the second lake. That's the one move he has here. I'd actually love to see Numidan consider just going in for some like blocker play with early Yumi or something, but instead it looks like it's a castle age race. In fairness, makes sense, right? Numidan is ahead by a mile right now. He has 13 ships compared to the 10 of Dumu. And Dumu has gone for double dock on one lake to try and get him there faster, but it means even once he arrives in Castle Age, he has less runway than Numidan, who's now playing double lake. Shinobi already checking that north side. Oh, man. If only he had God Vision, how easy games would be, right? But if he only had God Vision and realized the way that Dumu is playing this, it's a surprising choice as well, because now the funny part is with Numidan having more fishing boats, he can actually invest more workers in the tech up on land and still be better eco-wise. It's crazy to think about that, right? Another awkward issue is, remember, Shinobi have better scouting range than your standard units, so it's much quicker for them to just scout out the fact that there's no docks here at all. And I just want you to think about what it cost Numidan to get this confirmation. Yes, he doesn't have a Kura Storehouse, but he only paid for one of these Shinobi. One was free. So he spent 120 resources to now block a second dock placement. And in a Castle Age rush, this is the advantage he needs. 10 now trying to rush it up. We already see Numidan with 12 because he has fishing boats on 2 lakes. He can afford more villages away from land eco. Timing's just going to be better. Eco afterwards is going to be better. Dimu is going to have to pull some miracle out of his hat. Now, long term, he does at least have fishing when we get deep into the game, but I think the trade-off of giving over fishing advantage in the early mid-game just isn't worth what Kura gets you later. The question is, what's the opening play going to be here? Because one downside of being the first person to tech up, you tend to blink first. Oh my god, it's going to be stables. Mash. I thought someone would try Onimusha here. Onimusha is pretty strong, but I guess the issue with going Onimusha is that because of the amount of food that exists from fishing, you can't scale Onimusha quick enough to counter the Mount Samurai. I think Onimusha works better in the mirror matchup when your opponent can't consistently pump out Mount Samurai unlimited, right? But with 820 food income and this many fishing boats, you can non-stop pump Mount Samurai. So it actually makes sense why neither player tried Onimusha here. The follow-up should be an Onimusha play, though. Okay. So pump coming out. Already a numerical advantage for Numidan. He also does have the Shinobi, which can be pretty handy. Body block attempt comes in, but the Wolf does it instead! That Wolf just saved a life. The charge in from the Mount Samurai couldn't connect there. So actually, he gets away with the central relic. Already a slight edge here for Numidan, right? The rest of the relics, look at where they're located. This should be a 3-2 split for Numidan, as long as he doesn't slip up somewhere. We look at the melee tech upgrades. Where's the priority here? None coming in by the looks of it. Oh, wow. Dumu actually prioritized both upgrades. That's a mistake out of Numidan. He's choosing to go for Tawara instead, but that means his individual Mount Samurai are much worse off. A +2 advantage now for Dumu. Then again, you know what's better than a +2 advantage, guys? He just got Daimyo. If he immediately pumps an Uma Bannerman, it makes up for the lack of melee techs. This is quite creative, actually. On lower base damage units, it's actually better to get the melee techs, but if you're only on Mounted Samurai mass, the Uma Bannerman's worth a lot more. Dimu already in with the transition, though. He's moving across into the Onimusha before he even has the second Yorishiro. Clash comes in. Mount Samurai. Let's go peel back here. He's attacking all the wrong units, though, so Numidan has to back away. A bad fight here. What's his follow-up play going to be? It looks like he has actually dropped a shrine. He's actively producing into more Shintos. Where is that second Yorishiro going to go? Wall on the center. We'll push back against this. A good defense coming in from Numidan. This is the critical relic. This is the one they were going to contest over. This should end up being a 3-2 split now for Numidan. However, it looks like the Shinto does get cut down before he gets it all the way to safety. I mean, where's the Uma? Like, this is the thing that kind of sticks with me quite annoyingly here. That Daimyo upgrade came in ages ago. The Uma Bannerman was heavily delayed. If he had it already, these fights would be impossible for Dimu right now. Instead, Dimu has got breathing room at a critical point in the game. He can now get his daimyo, and he already has Onimusha on the way. Or it's going to be there. It's +4 versus +2, but now it's also the plus damage to the Onimusha. Flash coming in, needs to clear this up quick to reach the back line. Unfortunately, it just doesn't work that way, and this is the turning point. Numidan, feeling like a Numidan right now. That mistake, that missing Uma Bannerman in an earlier phase did cost him dearly, and now Dimu jumping across into Onimusha before the floating gate was even ready was such a smart play here. He now is able to pull the relic back. He now has the lead, and although there is at least going to be 3 fishing ponds available to Numidan, that's going to take time to return their value. In the meantime, his army's at a discount, and he's now going into Rax play instead of Onimusha himself. So, new strategy for Numidan is full A-click the fight and send it. Kind of makes sense, actually. If you have enough Mount Samurai here and you break and force a retreat from your opponent, the Onimusha can't turn around to fight, and they will be chased down by the Mount Samurai. But it's very risky. Like, if Numidan doesn't get the mass together quick enough, he will get kited. And one issue is, like, the way this now has to work, Numidan A has to get mass, and then he has to position close to the base. If he fights from his base, then he will get kited. If he fights near Dumu's base, then Dumu cannot walk away and kite, because he'll be sacrificing eco. So it's very gambly, but there is actually a way that this works out quite well for Numidan. Dimu now moving out for his own dot play. Wait a second. He doesn't even know yet. Archer ship is on the way. I don't know if this is going to be quick enough, though. It's close, but not close enough. Numidan, a good idea. If it had been 1 villager, it would have worked. Unfortunately, 2. A bit too fast on the build. Another interesting thing, actually, although it came on a delay in the melee tech play, this is quite nice now. Melee tech at this stage in the game is pretty effective because you're going into Spearman. So if you think about it, like, getting the melee tech upgrade over the Uma Bannerman makes no sense because of the percentage increase of damage. On Spearman, it makes perfect sense. An Uma Bannerman would give 15%. That's basically a +1 damage. So you might as well go for the melee techs and get +2, +3. If you don't it on the Mount Samurai, as a percentage of their damage, it doesn't even register in comparison to the Bannerman Aura. We already saw that, right? The +2 melee upgrades compared to the Bannerman Aura, it was +2 damage versus +4. Diamond level 2 also coming in, so it looks like Numidan is going to have the buff for both the Imp as well as the Cav. Wait, is he? Oh, has he stopped doing Mount Samurai? That's a bit neglectful if so. I think, like, Spearmen on their own doesn't make sense here. You need a healthy amount of both for this to work. If you can maybe find a fight where there's bad vision for Dimu, he could bait the entire Cav battalion into a Spearman line. That's hard to do, man. Dimu, you know, he may be old by esports standards, but he's not exactly slow on the reaction speed. He's capable of reacting to that more than quick enough. So that Spring Ship has at least guarded this area. Fishing hasn't been added in yet by Dimu, so he's still 1 lake versus 2 when it comes to economy. Army is looking good, though. I like the quality of what he's got going on here. He's also starting to stockpile resources, so, you know, if he sees an opening, if he sees weakness shown by Numidan, he can always go for a quick tech. Fishing is pretty lofty on each of these ponds. Dimu is overburdening his pond, though. He's exhausting it before it replenishes, so this is kind of less than ideal at this stage. At least be able to make up with access to a new pond entirely, though. Spearman on the chase. I love that he's trying to line formation to get a little bit of a recharge going here, but sadly, the start step back from Dimu is causing problems. Mount Samurai on the way, but they needed to be here sooner than this. It is going to be a pushback, but I just don't think Numidan has enough spears yet to successfully push Dimu all the way back to his economy. Like, Dimu could easily just keep optimizing this to snipe out more of these spearmen. Oh man, this is actually ugly. This is, like, the value in these spears is essentially Numidan's fishing advantage, right? And he's not really doing much with them. He's not trading at all. He's buying time. He's going for Onimusha now. But you can see Dimu, seeing how effective this strategy is, he hasn't stopped producing Onimusha himself. So it's just Numidan now playing from behind and staying behind. Doc has at least been shut down. So it looks like Dimu is now going up 2 lakes. I mean, dude, if he's able to do this on 1 lake, I don't want to see what he's going to do on 2. It might just be an instant GG. Numidan's in trouble. Look at the food. Has he actually got the eco upgrades? No, no extended lines at all. Not that it matters, right? He's nowhere near pop. No extra docks, though, right? That's the difference. That's why this looks good. For anyone's wondering why is Dimu competing, it's because he has a dock here and here. So it takes much less time to drop off the food compared to Numidan on the other side, who's sending all of the fish back to 1 location. In some cases, incredibly far away. And Dimu doesn't have fishing upgrades either. But he does have fishing now coming out in the pond. I don't know, man. I think this might be close to over. Dimu needs a miracle. Numidan rather needs a miracle. Dimu out of control right now. No line formation. I think that's the only downside here. He's a bit too clustered to the spearmen are starting to reach him a bit. They're still good trades, right? Like maybe he loses 1 of these and kills 3 spears. That's always a worthwhile endeavor. And still stockpiling what he needs to slowly get towards Imperial Age. Like that's the big difference I'm seeing when I look at these two. Numidan way too much gold. No way of spending it because of his comp. The funny thing about Dumu's comp is with all this fishing and the amount of gold he's gathering, it actually balances out nicely to slowly, gradually push him towards an Imperial Age. While Numidan just ends up spending way too much food and not enough gold. Now Military Academy also on the way. Dumu might just go for a double down here. Another dock being built up. Yeah, this is the I think Numidan's going to look back at this game and realize this is a key detail. Dumu's eco on 4 lakes just looks much better because the double docking. It's just much better for drop-off rates for the deep water fish. It's something that's been missing from the entire strategy for Numidan in this game. And now, it's costing him dearly. Numidan needs a good fight right now. Risky gold's been taken. There's double safe gold behind the base for Dimu, so he's not running out of resources anytime soon. So this clash has to dive very deep. Dimu has got the Kabura Ya, which means he can easily kite this out and stutter step it down. Long formation is going to be activated. Spearman will mirror it. But this just isn't going to work. I mean, once these Spearmen go down, it's going to completely turn against Numidan here. Man Samurai now going for the clash. It's in range of the Shogunate Castle. The rocket launcher in with assist, and this is game. There's no coming back from this now for Numidan. He's just a mile behind. Dimu is going to get a win in the fight, and he's immediately going to tech up. This is a lesson on optimizing your dock placements. I think the choice to go Spearman was a bit dicey, but more than anything, even with that weird choice, had he optimized the amount of food he's getting and where he's getting it, Numidan still had an opportunity here. Instead, it just felt like a game where he was a mile behind when it mattered most. And now, with a tech up on the way, I imagine Numidan will just call GG the moment the gunsmith completes. Especially considering he's still losing fights. Mount Samurai, tank the remaining spears, just a trickle of troops, and a quick end to follow. Numidan. Unfortunate. I really liked his opening. I liked the Shinobi play. I liked the double dock. I don't think the Kura Storehouse made too much of a difference here. That was actually extra food, in fairness to Dimu. But more than anything, it was the optimization around his dock placement. The fact he had 2 docks up on 1 lake also invalidates the Koka Township because it makes it difficult to sabotage both quick enough. Just a sick read by Dimu. He had a clear strategy. He didn't want to get bogged down in Koka. He wanted to ensure that his late game was better. And it worked here. I mean, it's kind of comparative to the idea of, like, you know, games where the landmark choices end the game in 5 minutes or end the game in 50. The cool thing about what Dimu done with his optimization of 4 lakes is he protected his early game while guaranteeing if this ever went to Imperial Plus and they moved away from fish onto land, he had all these extra farms to work with. His opponent did. Instead, he had to pay every little bit for each one he added in. Numidan, funnily enough, not calling it, though. Guess he feels confident he can maybe just take a win in a fight because you're going to have to outplay here. In fairness, his Spearman comp does get better now, folks. Now that he's up towards it, well, once he gets Imperial, rather, he will have Nagayari. Nagayari makes you a much more effective tool in the Japanese arsenal. But still, at that stage, your opponent is going to be doing this. It's Maso Nabigisha. Mass Onabagisha will kill everything Numidan's doing right now. It'll kill the Onimusha, it'll kill the spears. So, what is the comp that gets Numidan back in this? If he reads that it's Onimusha, Onabagisha plus Onimusha, he can save himself sort of with Samurai. It sounds weird because it's still Onimusha, but long term this is more about Onabagisha spam. Right? This is going to be Oda tactics, it's going to be 40 plus Onabagisha. The issue is, even if you get Samurai though, the spread out is the weakness for Samurai there. They can't chase Onabagisha. So, and this is probably why a lot of people hate mirrors. You basically have to go Onabagisha. Oh, that's so annoying. And if that's the case, you're just a step behind, right? Bunrei is coming in. I think we've already got Bunrei on the other side there, right? I'd be surprised if we don't. It's possible we don't. No, it's there. So extra Yoroshiru is coming through. Bunrei is the one that gives you 2+ Yoroshiru's. So it's an extra 150 gold trickle a minute. And I do not want to hear the word Yumi mentioned in this game. Even Yumi suck against Mass Onabagisha. They just get gap closed too quickly. It's so depressing. Yumi's more of an early game unit than a late game. It's all about zerging early. It's more cost-efficient zerging than Onabagisha in the early game. But if you get late game, you're always going to choose Onabagisha instead. And here we go. It's the Samurai trigger we talked about. Ah, boy. Guess who's about to get kited? What's going to happen here is Numidan's going to have to sacrifice the arm to protect the body, then it's going to be the leg to protect the body, then it's going to be the ear to protect the body. He's basically going to get chipped down piece by piece. Every time he reacts to one force, another one is going to sneak in somewhere else. Right now, though, Dimu, sensing his strength, just looks to force a main engagement. Numidan hasn't upgraded everything yet. The Ozutsu are in as well, and the clash comes through. Spearman in the hole for the moment, but not for long. An absolute paper shredder here. Onabagisha able to slap it through. A yoink of the relic in the meantime. A warlord to force this back, but Dimu making off with the goodies. About to make it 4 relics to the 1. That is going to be GG. Nothing left to right in this story. A weird outcome in many people's eyes, but in the battle between Koka and Kura, Kura can cure all.